So hello everybody and welcome to week 13 of STEM Mode In. It's week 13, it's the final week, it's the final Wednesday tutorial, so thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be joined by two amazing people from Vodafone, but I won't reveal too much just yet. So I'll give you a couple minutes to join in and then we'll get going. So hello everybody that has just joined. Welcome to week 13 of STEM Mode In. So we're just waiting for a few more people to join. I know it is about 4 minutes past. We'll give you a couple more minutes to join. Remember, the comments are there. Feel free to pop in any comments. I can see those comments and our special guest from Vodafone can also see those comments. So pop in your hellos, pop in any comments, and we'll commence in about 2 minutes or so. So welcome to those that have just joined. We're having a couple of technical difficulties in the background here, so we're just going to get those sorted. So thank you to all those that have tried to comment. I believe we have got the comments disabled, but we'll try and get that sorted as soon as possible. Usually we have lots of comments streaming through at this point, so thank you all for coming and joining on time. We will start in a minute or so. So hello everyone, welcome again to STEM Mode in week 13. I think we will get started. I can see you all trickling in now. We'll try and get those comments sorted as soon as possible to make sure you can comment along and answer questions that are going to be popping up along this tutorial. So welcome to the Machine Learning, AI and Chatbots Wednesday tutorial with Vodafone. It's going to be a good one. It's the final Wednesday tutorial for now. So welcome to everyone that is tuning in. So before we begin, as I mentioned, this is the last tutorial of STEM Mode in for now. The comments are up and coming or going to be working soon. But do you know what AI stands for? Let me know if you do. Maybe have a think about what AI could stand for if you don't, or if you don't know, or if you haven't heard of AI. And I'm going to introduce you to Natalie and Charlie shortly. So we will be joined by two amazing members of staff from Vodafone who are going to take you through this session. Okay. So as I mentioned, we will be learning about machine learning, AI, and chatbots. Okay. So I'm going to drop in Charlie and I'm going to drop in Natalie. So, hello, welcome.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
We're just going to move on to this next slide. So, Natalie, Charlie, who are you and what do you do?
So, hello, everyone. So, my name's Nat or Natalie. You can call me whichever. I don't mind. So, what I do as part of my job every day, so I work on our very own chatbot who's called Toby. You might see him on this very slide, in fact. And what I do is I'll design everything that Toby says, what he looks like, and how Vodafone customers would talk to him. And so I need to make sure that they're getting the help they need every day. So I work a lot specifically with Toby. So my desk mate is a chatbot at work every day. And then I know just outside of work, I am obsessed with pineapples. So in my house, you'll see a pineapple probably in every room. There's probably one behind me. I don't think you can see it. And usually for every birthday and Christmas, someone will give me something pineapple themed. So I think I've just gone with it now.
Very millennial. Very millennial. Excellent. Thank you, Nat. Charlie, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Charlie and I'm a senior manager in Vodafone. And I look at the technologies such as AI and machine learning and look at how we can apply them in Vodafone. And so particularly I'm looking at the future of our chatbot, Toby. I hate pineapples. They actually make me sick. But Recently, I've just got a new puppy, so if you hear any yapping in the background, that's why. So he's trying to say hello.
Cool. Okay, so I know we've just had an influx of people joining us. So I'm just going to reiterate and say hello again to all those that have just joined. I can see all your comments. I can see your hellos coming through. Finally, now we have got rid of the disable, so you can now comment. So we can see you. Hi, Ayla. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Simon. We can see you. We can see your comments. Thank you so much for joining STEM Mode in week 13. Thank you, Nat and Charlie, who've just introduced yourselves. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. Take it away.
Cool. So guys, today what we're going to do is talk about AI and machine learning, and we're also going to talk about what a chatbot is and what it takes to create one. So Nat's going to talk through all of that.
Cool. If we go to the next one.
Yeah.
So I know at the beginning, Charlotte asked everyone if they know what AI stood for. So I'm going to cover a bit of that now. So when we're talking through AI, what we're talking about is artificial intelligence. Now, that can sound quite scary for people. So you might have seen it in films when robots start taking over the world. You might see it in other films if anyone's seen things like a Marvel film. Iron Man's sidekick in some of it is an AI application. So Jarvis is AI, but sometimes it can be scary. So another thing that could be scary when we talk about this is that it sounds like it's something that only super smart people can understand. So when we think about in films, and Tony Stark is a genius, right? And what Charlie and I are here to do is tell you about it, but also tell you that that's not necessarily the case. We definitely need those super smart people, and we need a range of people, but there's a lot of things that come into making something work with AI. And so ultimately, what AI means, or artificial intelligence means, is that it's a computer program that's capable of thinking just like us and learning over time like we would. So we can teach it different things, just in the same way that we learn from when we're really small, how to do different things, how to work out some sums, anything like that. That's essentially what AI means for how we use it at the moment. And so if we go to the next one. And so within AI, we've got a thing called machine learning. And that's another thing that we're talking through today when we're talking about chatbots. And all that means is that's a way of using AI or artificial intelligence. And it means that then we help the computer program start to learn. So it learns some things around it. So it might base it on how confident it is in something or what data we feed it. So when us as people learn, we gain knowledge or we gain skills through things we do from our teachers or from being taught by our parents. And so in the same way that a plant learns how to respond to light, that's like something that doesn't speak, but it still learns, or a monkey peels a banana, or how we learn to ride a bike. Essentially, a machine learning program would do that in itself as well. The way that it does that is in the background. An algorithm is something that we give computer. I give a computer to solve a problem or get something done. So in the same way, if I needed to go and brush my teeth, I follow steps that says I need to get up out of my chair, I need to walk to my bathroom, I need to pick up my toothbrush, and the steps from there. So hopefully we all know how to do that one. But we also need to tell computers in the same way. So when we build some of these, we teach them in steps by using algorithms. And when we put a lot of algorithms together, it's something called a network. And what that means is a computer can understand the results of the steps and learn what it needs to do next time. So on our next picture, so every day in things that we might use a lot, algorithms are used in the background. So we might not see them, but I'm hoping everyone that might recognize some of these apps that I've put up on the screen here. So we might think that this, TikTok is just a place to watch some funny videos or do some dance moves, or we might think that Instagram is just pictures. Behind that, we've got a lot of algorithms that's deciding what needs to be done based on steps. I've just seen in the comments, is an algorithm like a code? Yep. So an algorithm, think of it like a sum. So it could be given to a computer as in steps, and think similar to how maths works. So if this does this, do something else. So it's usually a very, I say simple, but it's a sum, and that teaches the computer what it needs to do. And so what do we think the algorithms, I'm going to put it out to you guys. So what do we think, based on that we know an algorithm is following steps and learning what it needs to do? Can anyone take a guess at what these algorithms, when we talk about Instagram or TikTok, might be doing? I'm going to give you a couple of... and while they come in, I've just seen one.
Yeah, so I think Isabella's called out that it looks at videos that we watch and which photos, let's skip down photos that we like. Someone else has said that Instagram performs algorithms to give recommendations, and also they use algorithms in YouTube videos as well.
Yeah, the YouTube one's a brilliant one. So that's another one. So the way that it's learning in the background is that when we like or watch a video, it knows that the program's learning that we must like them. So when we like or double tap or we interact with them, that's how the computer program is learning that we like that sort of thing and knows to show us more. So the way that we think of this, so think of how your brain works. If you went and touched a hot stove, if you were cooking or someone in the house is cooking and you touched the pan, you'd go, ouch, that's hot. And you'd remember that. And probably most of us have done that when we were really small. And then we remember that in the future, we shouldn't touch that thing. And then the opposite is true for these. So if for something that we like and we're interacting with, the algorithm in the background suggests more things like that we might enjoy. And so just a kind of a bit of an I can't even speak now. A bit of an introduction into how algorithms fit into the way that machine learning and AI is built up. We don't want to go too technical. So I know we've got some questions. Oh, and Isabella said the YouTube recommendation algorithms find videos similar to what we've watched and liked, and that's exactly it. So it's starting to kind of understand what we're looking for as people and what we like, because we all like very different things. So if we go to our next slide. So you might have seen at the start, in our little intro slide, we had a little chatbot called Toby. So what Toby is Vodafone's chatbot, and he's designed to answer questions and understand what they've said. And that could be by speaking to Toby, or it could be over a chat window online. And so what a chatbot is a computer system that's designed to talk to people in the same way that we talk to each other, as well as being helpful. So in the same way that if Charlie needed help with something, she could just ask me, I would understand, and then I'd be able to help her. That's exactly what we need a chatbot for. Sometimes we call them virtual assistants. And they're pretty much the same. There's some difference. So you might hear something called a chatbot when it's more like us. So it could ask you, how's your day? What's the weather? As well as doing what you need it to do. A virtual assistant is something that's more specific for a task. So if you needed something to turn a light bulb on, you might say, hey, can you turn the light bulb on? And I won't name them yet, but you might say, turn that light bulb on. But with no real chat around it. You wouldn't ask it how it is. How's the light switch feeling? That kind of thing.
And so some of you have already seen the question on the screen in terms of we've got some famous kind of chatbots or virtual assistants such as Siri, and we've already had some people comment some additional ones. So if you can keep putting them in the chat. So you've got Alexa, Cortana, Zoom Assistant. So yeah, Google Assistant. So there's loads of chatbots out there, definitely. And I think we've got one question, which is, does Toby stand for something? And yep, it stands for iBot backwards. So that's why it's called Toby. Bixby, yep. Okay. Cool. Shall we go ahead now?
Sure. So I think we at the end. So the way that we might use algorithms in Toby. So that's what we're going to talk about on this one. So for a chatbot, we might teach it using question and answers, and what we call this is a data set. So how we talked about that a machine can start to learn on its own. Sometimes they need a little bit of help to make sure that they're doing the right thing, and that's what a data set is. So hopefully we can read on this example that. So these are the different kinds of ways that people might ask something. So in this one, we might be asking for a joke, or the chatbot might need to understand that someone wants to hear something funny. There's a few different ways of saying it, and what we need to do is prepare the chatbot to understand those, and that's what that data set does. So all of us are completely different, and we can see in this live chat that none of us ask questions in the same way. We all ask completely different questions, and you can kind of have a look at that going on really in your chat here. And so what this does is almost helps our machine learning. So the data set helps us give it a direction. So in this case, it would be jokes. And then in the background, it's going to use its machine learning algorithms to fill in the gaps. And it's learned that from thousands of conversations with humans to understand the question that's been asked. So although on the screen here, I think I've got maybe 7 examples of jokes, you might already start telling me in the chat all the different ways you could ask me for something funny or a chatbot. And then what it's doing is thinking, we know that when people speak, we've seen that they might say, do you have a joke? But they might also say, can you tell me a joke? And the very complicated stuff in the background is filling in the gaps based on how we speak as humans. And that whole process is called natural language processing. And that's ultimately how a computer starts to understand us as humans. And that's by us guiding it.
And now we've got a couple of questions. So one of the questions is, what if they don't know the answer to something?
So if it's in terms of not knowing the answer, then it might be something that it does something similar to, hey, I don't know what that is. So what a chatbot doesn't need to be is perfect. So it doesn't necessarily, because just like any of you guys could say to me a question and I say, oh, I don't really know what that means, could you ask me again? Then chatbots and anything like that is the same. So what we would normally do is prepare for that situation. So we might say, think about how you do it in real conversation. If I don't understand something that you say, I'm going to ask you to ask me again. Chatbots and natural language processing does the exact same. So when we create something, what we need to do is make sure that we're understanding people. And sometimes that's straight away using things like this data set, or when we match to what they've said, or it's by clarifying. Sometimes it's a mix of both a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think often, we will have, for example, Toby learning, as Nat said, and sometimes you will also need kind of human intervention. So we're there to kind of help Toby learn as well.
Exactly. And if we show up the next slide, this all this is a bit of a diagram to, I know we've covered these 3 things in a little bit, but these all fit into one overall circle, which is, so artificial intelligence, which we mentioned at the beginning, means all of these. So all of these aspects fit into AI, or artificial intelligence. Machine learning is a part of it, and natural language processing, which is the slide we just covered, both work together to fit into AI. So natural language processing fits into machine learning, and then together they create an AI experience. So there's a lot of other things that come into AI. It's just that for today we're going to talk about these two, and specifically chatbots. And oh, sorry, go on, Charlie.
So what we'll talk about next is what we need to make a chatbot. So we'll talk through a purpose, what we mean by a user profile or persona, what we mean by a bot persona, something called intents, and then dialogues or conversations. So this will be the next step.
Cool. So what in the background, a lot of the stuff we talked about so far is very technical. So that's kind of behind the scenes. And what we're going to talk through is those steps that Charlie just mentioned. So if we wanted to create a chatbot, if all of us now wanted to go and create one, what are the most important things that we need to figure out before we do so? And the first one of that is what we'd call either a purpose. So when we're talking about people who use a chatbot, we'll refer to them as users. So you might see that we say, how does the user find something? And what we mean there is people, and the people that are using a chatbot or talking to it. And so when we're building a chatbot, we need to understand what the bot is going to do. So why are we what are we doing? How do we want to help people with this chatbot? And we'll usually call this a use case, or we'll call it a purpose. And they're really important because that helps us know a situation which a chatbot could be used and what it could be useful, and ultimately what we want the chatbot to do. So if we were going to make a chef version of Toby or a food version, he might have these kinds of use cases. It might be help following a recipe. It could be, hey Toby, what ingredients do I need to make a pizza? Like, I don't know how to do it. Or even if I don't feel like cooking that day, maybe there's a use case to get Toby to order me a pizza. If we made a food Toby. So those are a couple of examples of what a use case might be. And so if we go to our question.
Yeah, guys, so if you could make a chatbot, what would you make it for? And we'll keep an eye on the comments whilst we just talk through the next bit as well.
Yeah, so it'd be good to hear what you think that you could make, what would be a useful chatbot for you guys. So what kind of chatbot would help you in your lives every day? And I've just seen there's one who said it'd be good if Toby could cook for them too, or a chatbot could cook for them. I would also enjoy that chatbot. So if anyone wants to start that as a project, I'm on board. Recipes, great.
Chores. Yeah, someone's doing daily chores. Any daily chores that you would like, Toby? Okay, so cleaning and organising tips. I definitely need some cleaning and organising tips in my life, so I like that idea.
Oh, a music chatbot.
Nice. Personal assistant.
Oh yeah. Tips on everything. That'd be good as well.
I like this. I think someone's put around playing music and singing. They'd like to have some constructive feedback on their music practice.
Oh, that's a great one. And I think they mentioned you play the violin and the piano. So when I was younger, I also played the violin. So the one good thing a chatbot wouldn't be able to do is move your hands when you're trying to get the right notes, which I used to struggle with when I played that. But yeah, it'd be a great one. Make sure you're in tune. Make sure that you're doing the right music. So we'll keep an eye on those, and then keep them coming in. Don't feel free to carry on. Any ideas? This is how we would do it. We want to keep going through as many ideas as possible. And so following when we decided that, so when we've all decided that what we want our bot to do, the next step. So keep in mind what you want what you think your ideal chatbot, what it would do for you. And so if we skip to the next one, what we need to do then, so we know that we've got our food bot or our music bot or our music bot. And what we need to do is understand who's going to be using it. So we want to understand our users. So like we mentioned in the last one, that's the people that are going to be using it. And to do that, we create something called a user profile or a user persona. And this is where we look at things about our users that might affect the way that they use a chatbot. And we make a kind of character around it. And that way, when we're making something new for the chatbot, we can look back on that and make sure that we're going to make this as great for everyone. And so a persona can be made up of things like a user's age, their gender, where they live, education, which could mean, are they at uni, are they at school, are they in college? And those are called demographics. So they're something that often apply to all of us, and it can be done as an average. So we might say that a chatbot is designed for people that are aged 9 to 13, and that's based on a demographic, and it's broad because within that everyone's very different. And so the more specific ones are things like goals, motivations, their view of the world, and their opinions. And these are very specific to all of us. I like pineapples. Charlie hates pineapples. We're all very different people. So if our chatbot was aimed at people that don't like them, it's probably not aimed at me. And these are the kind of things we need to understand before we go and build one. And so this is called the psychology of a user, and think about how different we all are as people, and that's key. And then what we do is create that character. And so we might make one called Charlie, and then in that we'll say a fictional character called Charlie, and we say that their motivation is to get, they don't want pineapples anywhere. And her goal is to find any other fruit that is not a pineapple. And we might do it that. And sometimes it's not that specific, but think about the people for your chatbot ideas, who would be using them. So for a music one, who listens to music? What do we need to know about those people? And this is super important for when we build a chatbot. We want to make sure that as many people as possible can get the answers to their questions or do what they need to do with a chatbot. And so along with the user profile or a user persona, the next part we have, if we skip over, is called a bot persona. So exactly in the same way how we would assign a persona to real people, but so that we can design it for them, a chatbot's also got to have its own personality. So we want to make sure we're giving information to people in the right way. And a persona for a chatbot is when you give it human traits. So normally, if we were talking about a computer, we probably wouldn't call a computer friendly or young or happy. They're very much specific to humans, really. We could call a person happy. We wouldn't necessarily call a computer. And when we create this persona, this steers how it starts to respond, and we make it feel more human going forward.
Yeah, definitely. So if you look in the kind of slide here, we could have a bot that says, hey, what can I do for you? Or you could have a bot that says, oi, what do you want? And we've got something which is more friendly or more grumpy than the other. So if we wanted our chatbot to sound friendly, which one of these do you think we would say? And is there anything that you would like your bot to be? Would you want it to be friendly, grumpy, happy? So put them in the live comments and we'll capture those as we go along as well.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on, hopefully everyone can pick between which one, if we wanted our chatbot to be friendly. Seen a couple of people suggesting things still on what they'd want their chatbot to do.
Yeah.
See a couple of people found the real Toby as well on the web. Yeah, definitely. So everyone, the first one, hey, what can I do for you?
I really like this one to say, if it said your name, it would make it personal. So yeah, I really like that idea.
That's a great one. That's a great one. So if we skip to our next one, we've got another question for you. So bear in mind what we just talked about. So traits that we assign to people. So friendly or young or happy. Keep that in mind. And if we go to the next slide.
Yep. So if you had to build a persona for your chatbot, what kind of traits do you think that you would give it? I like this. Someone says actually that if it could respond, so if you're more formal, you could have a more formal chatbot, and if you're more like friendly, you could have something more friendly. I really like that idea. So really responding to user. That's a great idea.
Really great. And that's exactly what those things we've talked about are designed to do. Because just think about if we hadn't considered those, how wrong we might have got it. So if we had a really formal person chatting to us and we were like, hiya, you okay? That kind of thing. They might be like, actually, call me by Mr. Smith or my full name. Whereas some of us might want it to be more friendly and like, hello, how are you? Think about how people talk to you. So we've got a few others coming in as well. Efficient, that's a good one. Like depending on what you want it to do. Humorous, another good one.
Yeah, bit of sarcasm people want in there as well.
I've spotted a question as well that is, how can young be a trait? So it's more around the fact that the way that people communicate but depending on their age, can change. So there might be certain words that we don't include if a chatbot was designed for younger people. And in the same way, if we're designing for older people that might not have in that persona when we create that, we might have say they're older people. They could be like our gran and granddads. And they don't know how to use a lot of technology, perhaps. We might not use a lot of what we call jargon. So we might not say things that sound really technical or really confusing. And that's how we bring age into it as a trait almost. Oh, that's a good one. Using colloquial language rather than formal. That's a really nice one. Like I think we're probably all from different areas, and there's a lot of different ways we say things. So a lot of people where I live would say "Hey up" instead of "Hi," and there's all those kind of things. So that's a really good one.
Definitely, and we've had a few more people talking about what they'd have their chatbot do. So advising on health or helping with homework. So it's been really good to get those in as well.
Oh, if only chatbots had been around when I was at school, I would have used that homework one. So keep those coming in while we carry on. We can still come back to them and talk about them. And so I know earlier on we were talking about how machine learning understands what people say. So this is how we would almost build that into our chatbot. So keep in mind the chatbot that you've got in your head about what you'd like it to do, the personality that it's got, and what you decide, is it friendly, is it chatty, all that, keep in mind. And so when a chatbot recognizes what somebody asks, it's classified, meaning matched, to what we call an intent. An intent is what the person's goal is when they speak to a chatbot. So again, this is something that we do in our brains without even knowing we're doing it. So if somebody asked me any of these questions that you can see these people on our slide that say, they could say that in any way, and I probably know what I need to do next based on that. I've always done that. We've learned that as humans when we learn to speak, or we read it in people's faces. So we can see when someone's sad, we can see when someone's happy because they might smile or they frown or anything like that. A chatbot can't do that yet. So what it does is would match the versions of these to an intent. And so for the examples that you can see on screen, it's 5 different ways of saying it. But ultimately, we know what they're trying to do is get help. And so an intent is understanding without the specifics of the word what somebody needs. So even though all these people ask for things in different ways, because of the data set that we've prepared our chatbot with, it'd know that all of these people are going to be asking for help. And so have a think about all the ways that you might ask for help, because I'm sure there's more than just 5. So all of us might ask it in a different way. Feel free to put those in the comments and just keep that in mind about what the chatbot idea you've got as well. And then the last step almost before we show our users our chatbot is our dialogue. Now, once the chatbot's able to understand the way we speak using natural language process and the intents that we just talked about, and we know what the bot needs to do, so that's our purpose and our use case, and who it's for, and that's our user persona. So unlike us, where we can think straight away and give someone an answer, chatbots at the moment need to have their answers prepared. And so this is what we call a dialogue design. So on the screen, I've got a bit of an example. So there's a film called Zootopia or Zootropolis, I think. In the UK, it was called. And the main character of that is Judy Hopps, and she's a bunny. So the example that I've put on the screen is an example of how all those things we've talked about so far look when someone's speaking to it. So this particular chatbot, although it's got Toby's head, is designed to talk just like Judy Hopps, who's a character from that film. And she's a bunny, and she's friendly, and she's really chatty. So you'll see there's a lot of messages, but it understands that when someone's saying, I'm human, I think. And so have a look at how that's responded. And what we would do with a chatbot is build that in advance. So we match that to an intent. So we know when somebody needs help, say this. And then we do that across a whole range of different things. So I know we've only talked about help and jokes in this one, but think about what people might ask as an intent. So I think this one on the example says something like, what if I said I was a bunny? Or how do I do that? And those are both intents. And that's how we would go about building our dialogue. So when we talked about all those things, so what your idea for your chatbot is, what its personality might be like, or its persona, think about what the responses you might give to your users might be. So if you're designing an angry bot, probably wouldn't talk just like Judy Hopps. It would probably be a bit shorter, different responses. So keep that in mind. And so
people that know Zootopia, everyone said that she loves the bunny, she's courageous. So it might be, as we've talked about, that we could put that into the dialogue in terms of some of the responses if she has that character.
Yep, exactly. So I think if we go,
so we have some questions for you. So if you can just put in your answers, we'll go through them all together. And then if you want to put your answers 1, 2, and 3 in the chat, and then we can go through what the answers are on the next slide. So can you guys remember what we call the process of a computer understanding what humans say? The next one is when we decide what we want a chatbot to do, we call it something or something else, if you can remember what either of those are. And then can you think of one piece of information that might be included in a user persona? So we'll give you a couple of minutes just to fill those out in the chat, and they'll start coming through. I'm going to have a look at what other people have said that they want their chatbots to do as well. I think a lot of you have been saying that you want help with homework and organizing diaries and being efficient, which I would like. I'd like somebody to help with my work as well. That would be great.
A really good message that someone's put in there as well is some phones can recognize your face nowadays, so maybe the bot can learn to understand if someone has the expression of pain or happiness. And totally. So as these things advance, so we won't talk about it necessarily today, but there are ways that you could do exactly that, recognize someone's face. And it's the same principle. So in the background, we would teach the computer how to recognize a face. And a really good example of how computers do that is Snapchat. So if anyone's ever used Snapchat, the app, think about how that recognizes your face. It's a similar thing. And all that is we've taught the program to recognize what constitutes or what makes up a person's face or an expression. So that's a really good point.
So we've had loads of answers starting to come through, and looking, people have obviously been listening, which is great, Nat. So we've got lots of correct answers. We'll just give it a couple more seconds for people to put any answers in that they want to, and then we'll go to the next one with the slide with the answers on. That's okay.
Yeah, we can see them coming in.
Yeah,
thick and fast.
Cool. So if we go on to the next one, we can talk through the answers. So you're right. So the first question is, what did we call the process for computer understanding what humans are saying? And that is called natural language processing, or it's sometimes shortened to NLP. So you might hear people talking about that. The second question is, when we decide what we want a chatbot to do, what do we call it? And that can be called a purpose or a use case. So quite a few you got that right. And then the third one can be lots of different pieces of information that we use in a user persona. But you guys have got things like age, gender, goals in there. So they're all things that we potentially use. Accent could be one, yep. Motive for use and age. So yeah, you've all come up with some really good examples.
Yeah, really good. And like we said, those could, like it says on here as well, it could be almost anything that would be helpful for us to design it to make it helpful. So if you think about designing for your mum or dad or your grandpa and grandma, it could be totally different. They'd all have different motivations for using something. It might, and we might need to make it simpler for my mum, or we could make it a bit more complicated for someone that's familiar with it. So they're all really good examples that everyone's put in the chat there. If we click through. So who can make a chatbot? And that what we're going to do quickly is cover who makes up the team that makes a chatbot. So if we go to the next slide as well. You might remember at the start I mentioned that AI or artificial intelligence can sound a bit scary, or that we need super smart people to do it only. And so what we wanted to talk through today is actually that's not the case. There's a big mix of people that make up a team that create a chatbot, and that ranges. So we've got people like me who are a conversation designer. So this is someone who designs the way the chatbot looks or sounds, or what questions and answers it's got in there. We've also got what's called a user experience researcher. So not everyone might have heard of any of these jobs before. They're all fairly new. So they change. So a user experience researcher. And when we're talking about those user personas and about our users in general, these are the people that go and do that research. So they might interview people, they might research with questions online, and learn more about the people that are going to use a chatbot. So in Vodafone, for our Toby, that's involved a lot of interviews. They go out and meet our customers. They do questions on the website. And then we also take a look at how people have spoke to Toby. This person, that user experience researcher, is in charge of understanding that and teaching everyone about our users or our customers. And then lastly on our example is a developer. So this is an engineer who builds all the codes, all the complicated stuff in the background that makes the chatbot work. That goes from how it looks and how you click the buttons or how you do anything like that, to linking up that NLP engine that we talked about right at the start, which is natural language processing. And they often know quite a few different code languages, we'd call them, and they're very technical. So when we're talking through what skills are needed for these particular people, it could be a creative person. So someone like a conversation designer could be creative or be interested in solving problems. And a user experience researcher is similar. They want to find out a lot of things and they're fairly curious, but they don't necessarily build anything super technical. It's all about understanding. But then we have the developer, which is probably the most technical role. So that's more specific to coding and building things. But in general, we have all different skills. So when we talk about that natural language processing, there's things like maths, language or linguistics that comes into it, psychology, neuroscience, and computer science. And that's a whole bunch of things that make up a team that build a chatbot. And so today our point is that we're all interested in STEM or that field. Anyone can contribute to something like a chatbot.
Definitely. And we have got a question here, which what kind of role do you think you would be interested in? And we've already got some people feeding in. So some people are saying they're interested in the developer role. I've got a few people saying that they're interested in the conversation designers. There you go, Nat. They all want to be you.
Recruits.
Yeah, we've got a few people coming through the back. Yeah, so would like to be a developer. One person has asked what kind of language skills you need. So Nat, I don't know if you want to answer that one.
Yeah, so depending on whether we mean coding languages or like our spoken languages. So in terms of the coding languages, it's a big mix. So there's in the background when we talk about data sets or language models, there's languages like Python, which is a data language. There's things like HTML, which is and something called CSS, which makes up what things look like predominantly on websites, but also the window that a chatbot would live in, and things like JavaScript, which is another one. So the way I usually describe those languages, so Python is to understand things and process a lot of data, and the other three work together. So if you think about a house, HTML is your house, CSS is your wallpaper that makes it look great, and JavaScript is the hinges on your doors, because without it, nothing would work. You wouldn't be able to get in your house. You couldn't move. Couldn't do a lot of that stuff. So they're kind of a few of the basic ones, and there's more and more out there. So if that's something you're interested in, you can online. There's so many programming languages that could come into a chatbot, and I am by no means an expert on those languages. You'll see I am that top person. I am a conversation designer, so unfortunately, any development questions, I'm probably not the best for you guys.
I think one person said that their main interest in the technical parts, but what would like to be able to have some influence in the design, and that is really important when you're building a chatbot. Is actually, although these are three different individuals and jobs, everyone has to work together to make sure that it's the best that it can be. So although you might be a developer, you would still have loads of influence over what that would look like and how it would feel. So that is really important, that it's not just about, doing some code. You do get to kind of change things as well, which is great.
100%. So for me, every day I work every day with a developer. So a developer is someone that I speak to constantly. So if I've got an idea for Toby, perhaps where I want something to look different or do something differently, that developer person has equal input to me. So this isn't in order of any sort of importance. The key thing as well is that this team works together. It needs a lot of different skills, and we all work together to create it. I couldn't do it just on my own. The developer couldn't do it just on their own, and a researcher couldn't do it on their own. The important thing is that it takes a team to do this. And it's also, like I mentioned earlier, it's not limited to these three that we've listed there. It's always changing. There's always new aspects to it. So even if you think, actually, of those three, I'm not sure about which I'd be interested in, tell us in the comments. Is there something else that you might be interested in? It could be related. How many pineapples do you have in your whole house? I actually dread to think. I've got a real edible pineapple in the kitchen, definitely. And I've actually got 4 in my garden that are lights. So there's probably about 10. So
and I have 0 because they're not allowed.
So I suppose, have we had any more coming around what roles?
I think they're the main ones, just people talking. Had another person saying they'd really like to be a user experience researcher as well. So, yeah. Great.
Oh, that's a good question. What are the 3 top skills to have to become one of the roles you mentioned? And I think in terms of skills, I think across all 3, it's more of like less a practical skill, but it's curiosity. So all 3 of these people want to understand how something works, and there's no specific perhaps skills in the way we think of them. So I wouldn't say you have to be brilliant at maths to do a specific role. It's more about how you approach things, and that's really important for any of these. So a lot of these things anyone can learn. It's not restricted. That's a lot of pineapples.
So thank you very much, Nat and Charlie. I know we've moved on to questions now. So what I will say is we did start a little bit later, so we've got extra time for questions. So we might go up until about 5 past, if that's okay with you, Nat and Charlie.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. Totally
Excellent.
fine.
So yes, any questions, pop them in the comments, and then we'll go through and answer them as best we can. So maybe I'll kick off actually and ask you, just curious as to what your normal days are at Vodafone. Maybe not during COVID, but pre-COVID. What does your normal day consist of?
Yeah, I mean, for me, so a lot of it is, it's a design process. So what we usually do is all those steps that I've shown you guys, that's what I follow every day. So that is a lot of my job. So what I've tried to do is tell you exactly what that involves. And that when we're talking about things like that user persona and the bot persona, that is what I'm doing every day. So I'll usually throughout my day look at the chats that people have had with Toby, see what's gone on. Sometimes they go wrong because he's not human. So, you know, and when we see something like that, we need to figure out the best way to fix it. So what we might do then is exactly those exercises I've talked about, but rethink what went wrong and how can I make that work next time. So it could be that we, in that dialogue step that I mentioned, that we hadn't built the right response. So it's recognized something, but it doesn't say the right thing. So a lot of my time is going over what's happened and seeing how I can make that better.
Amazing. You're going to have lots of extra chats from our girls in the that have joined this session as well, that have given Toby a go as well. So you and Toby by the sounds of it. What does your day look like?
Yeah, so I think someone put in the comments about what about project management, and is it a job that applies, and that is really important, and that's part of the job that I do. But I look at kind of what that means in the future as well for Toby. So I work with lots of different companies looking at what they do and how we can make Toby even better. So yeah, that's a bit of a higher level. So that's what's really important for me.
Cool. Thank you, Charlie. And thank you, Nat. So we have a question that was just on the screen. If you could pop that again, Team Stemet, onto the screen. And it's a question from Abigail. And Abigail asks, what about project management? Would that be a job that applies in the creation of chatbots? Does any aspect of business apply? So a couple of questions there.
Yeah, so definitely project management is really important, that we can, when we're building a chatbot, or even when we're changing and making a chatbot better, that we've got a really clear plan of what it is that we want to do and all the different people that we want to get involved. So that would definitely be a job that applies in the creation of a chatbot. And yet any, you know, or in our business, we have lots of people involved with Toby, even people from finance and marketing and all those kind of things. So it is, you know, kind of across the business.
Cool. We've got another question here from Yomi, who asks, how can I talk to the online Toby? That's a great question. How do we get going on Toby then?
So I think as well, as part of this, we'll send out some links for everyone to try, but for ours, so our Vodafone customers, you can just go to our Vodafone website and you'll be able to find a page all about Toby and also some links where you can chat to Toby as well.
Excellent. So we will have, don't worry as well, to those that have missed the recordings or missed the beginning bit, we'll have those recordings to you, we'll get those links to you, so you'll have all of that after this session as well. So thank you for that, Nat. Isabella asks, if we wanted to have a go at building a chatbot ourselves, where could we do this? It's a great question.
Great question. I hope that everyone goes and gives it a bit of a go. So again, and in our after this session pack, I've got a few links for you all in some free, easy tools. So that I split it depending on everyone's age. So you can pick the one that makes sense to you guys. There's a few out there, so it ranges from our Toby is a relatively complicated build, so we couldn't necessarily go and replicate or copy Toby straight away, because Toby actually is connected to a lot of systems that can do things for our customers. But if you wanted to build one, there's going to be a few links in there. There's a few different options, even to the point where you could just drag and drop things in, and it'll get you familiar with how to build them. But always bear in mind those steps that I've talked about. So think about what you want your bot to do and who it's for and what you want it to say and sound like, and that will help you create a great bot.
Cool. We look forward to getting those links. Brilliant. Thank you, Nat. So Soraya's asking, is Toby connected to Google or does he have his own searcher?
So he's connected to Google in the way that you could find him via Google. But the way that Toby would search for information is from a data set that we put in ahead of time. So one that's really important thing for Toby in particular is that we don't want to show anything that we shouldn't be to our customers. So we make sure that we've got a lot of information that is accurate, that isn't going to be doesn't sound wrong, isn't stuff that shouldn't be shown to our customers. And so it does a search of data, but in the background of stuff that we pick. So not all of the web. It doesn't crawl across Google for answers.
Cool. I'm going to ask a question before I ask this next question, actually, and it's kind of to do with apprenticeships or work experience or anything like that. So, one, are there those kind of opportunities? And two, I guess, how has COVID affected it, or are you still going with work experience, maybe with apprenticeships, maybe with the grad scheme? What's going on at Vodafone at the moment?
So within Vodafone, we have lots of different schemes. So we have a scheme for developers. We usually get people coming into Vodafone and like talking to us and doing big events where people can learn about all these kind of things. Unfortunately, because of COVID, there's some of those where we've not been able to have the kind of that face-to-face, but that's why things like this is so important to us, so we can kind of get out there and share all the cool things that we're doing. But yeah, and we're hoping once we can all sort of get together again that we'll be able to really continue with those kind of things. It's so important to us.
Cool. So watch this space then, shall we, Charlie?
Definitely.
Cool. I think we've got time for one or two more questions. So we've got a question here from Praksha, and it is, what is your favourite part of the job? So maybe if you both answer that, actually.
Go ahead, Nat.
Sure. So my favourite part is learning about our users. I find it absolutely fascinating. So, and even from our chat with you guys, the same for Toby. We'll see so many different ways that people speak or understand things, and it really, really interests me. So I like having that problem to solve. So when I see that people are not understanding something, I absolutely love going away and finding a way to fix that problem. And also because we're not always going to get things perfect. That's another, weirdly, that sounds like it wouldn't be my favorite part, but it kind of is, because you learn a lot by getting things wrong. And for something like chatbots, so chatbots are super new, really. I think even a few years ago, you wouldn't have even heard of one. Never mind ever being able to use one or build one. And that's my favorite part, is weirdly understanding our users and also getting things wrong a bit. That's kind of my favorite part.
Nice. A bit of a life lesson there as well there, Nat.
Yeah.
Cool. And Charlie?
I'm kind of similar. For me, I really like it when we start to see, so for example, if we can see that Toby maybe doesn't know so much about something and then we're able to make a change, and then we can see that's really like helping our customers. For me, that's what I really like about doing this on Toby.
Cool. So we'll make this the final one from Zalika here, and it is, how do we make Toby easier to understand for people who have a disability?
That's a brilliant question, because it's really important. So one of the things that we look at for Toby as well, and that we need to make sure, so when we're understanding our users, so when we talked about understanding that, that's a big part of it. We've all got different things going on, and there's all kinds of different disabilities. So people that might struggle with hearing or sight or reading or anything like that, or typing. And one of the important things is understanding exactly that. So how do we do that for these people? And it might be that then it could be something like Toby then has a voice option. So for people that can't see very well, that we read out loud the questions. Or it could be things as simple as making sure that the way that Toby's presented has options to make text bigger, or show pictures in a certain way. There's lots of things that we need to do, and the big part of that is understanding our users. So that's why we talk about that user persona so much, because this is a big part of that, is understanding what they need.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nat. And I think that is the end of our Vodafone STEM Mode In tutorial. Thank you. Virtual round of applause for you there, Team Vodafone. So thank you so much. For those that have been to these sessions, you know what's next. It is the feedback form. So I've put the link on the screen there. So if you could complete that link, that feedback, that would be great. We'll make sure we share that with you as well, Team Vodafone. There is the link. Any questions again? We can answer any final questions. The final one, actually, that someone has asked, it's off the screen now, but are you both key workers? Ask lots.
So we're not seen as key workers, but we are working and have been working all the time. So we've been able to work from home because of the way that obviously we're set up within Vodafone. But we are seen as really important because obviously Toby's there to kind of help our customers. So we need to make sure that we can keep him going.
Agreed. Cool. So kind of.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Cool. Okay. Well, I have also popped on the screen there links to Vodafone's Twitter, Instagram. So do give them a follow as well. Pop any comments that you like to Vodafone. We'll make sure we keep an eye on those as well. So for those that did tune in a little bit late, don't worry, you haven't missed anything. We will make sure you do get the recording after this session. You will get your certificate if you have filled out your feedback form. So do make sure, I might put the feedback form one more time. For those that didn't catch the link, you will get your e-certificate to you next week as well. And if you are aged over 13, do join us in the society where you can be the first to know about all these cool events that we have coming up. Team Vodafone, any last words from you before we jet off?
No, just hopefully everyone's enjoyed it, and at some point we'll be seeing chatbots made by everyone.
Yeah.
Agreed. Looking forward to it. Maybe we can get the girls into Vodafone eventually after all of this COVID.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much again, Team Vodafone, and thank you everyone for tuning in. We do have a Friday live, so it isn't the end of Vodafone week. We have one more session with Vodafone on Friday, and it is a Friday live on Instagram. So do join us for that. There's going to be some cool people joining us on Fridays. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.